welcome everybody for coming in. I'm Leslie, I'm the marketing coordinator with Blackfin, and this is Jared. Just introduce yourself for everybody here in case someone doesn't know who you are.
Sure. So I'm Jared Spiewak. I'm the lead SEO strategist here at Blackfin. I've been doing SEO work for about 4 years, just a little bit under. I started with SEO when I was in high school, just doing mostly just researching and writing about it. Then I actually started to get into doing some actual work on it. I've owned 2 companies in my lifetime. One was just a basic marketing company, where another one is a web development and SEO company. I also have a degree in marketing as well as working on a certificate in full stack web development.
Cool. So there's a couple things we're going to be talking about today, kind of what's new in the SEO world, things that are happening with SEO and law firms in particular. So is there anything kind of new happening right now in the SEO world?
Well, there's always something new, or at least people claim there's something new. That's one of the best things about SEO, I think, is that people don't agree on everything. That some people are like, oh, this is something new. Hey, Todd.
Hey.
People will say, like, oh, there's this new thing I discovered. They're testing this. And then a week later, no one's talking about it anymore because no one's finding it and it's gone. But what I thought was interesting is at Google I/O, they announced that they're going to be beta testing live indexing, which means basically the example that they gave was if the Dallas Cowboys were streaming something, maybe there's an interview going on, there's going to be like a live carousel on your search result in which you can swipe through all the live feeds of what's going on. So you're getting these in real time and you're not waiting for Google to find this video of an interview and then index it. It's happening right now. You can see it right now.
Cool. That's very cool.
That really is cool. Would that be limited to video?
I'm not sure. I only read some articles from I/O. I don't know if there's any video. There's probably video out there. But the examples and the screenshots that I saw were just videos.
Awesome.
Very cool. So Todd just hopped in. So Todd's the director of digital marketing for Blackfin, just in case someone doesn't know who you are.
Yeah, hey everybody. Yeah, I'm director of digital marketing. I've been with Blackfin for maybe 6 months or so, but I've been doing digital marketing for lawyers one way or another for 5 or 6 years. And I'm here in Asheville, North Carolina.
Cool. Yeah, so we're just starting with kind of what is new in SEO, what is happening right now with Google SEO. It seems to change so quickly. So Jared brought up that one first cool point. Is there anything that you've kind of seen that's new and interesting?
Yeah, one of the pieces that we talked about in our attorney marketing trends report for 2016 was how big of a role voice search is going to be playing this year. I think I saw something like 44% of adults do at least one voice search per day, at least in 2015. And for teens, it's more like 55%. But it's really different because the way that people search for stuff and the way that they think about search is really different. Like the kinds of questions that they ask and the kinds of things that they're looking for. Jared, I know that you were going to spend some time really diving in on how we can do optimization for lawyers for Siri. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, sure. So I did about 2 hours of research into Siri SEO specifically. There's other voice search services such as Google and Microsoft, but they aren't as prevalent right now. Their statistics are lower than compared to Siri. And so with Siri, again, how I mentioned before, how there's a lot of non-agreement within the SEO community is that with Siri, some people say that they pull their search results from Bing instead of Google, which is interesting because as SEOs, we generally focus on Google because they are like they have a 3 times search capacity compared to Bing. Bing isn't as popular as Google. And so by Apple showing Bing results, that's very interesting because a lot of people don't keep track of Bing. We don't really pay attention as much as to the Bing algorithms as much as we do the Google algorithms. But there's some people that say that no, they actually do pull the results from Google. And so there's this argument that you can test it. Here it works. They're pulling from Bing. Here it works. They're pulling from Google. But Apple has announced before that they want to move away from being involved with Google because they are a pretty big competitor in some of their markets. I know that Google has a lot more areas that they do that Apple doesn't, but there are some major competitors, especially with their phones themselves. Another thing is with maps. One of the biggest uses for voice search is saying directions to a place. And when you do that, from what I heard, it brings up Google Maps, where other people say it actually brings up Apple Maps. So there's a lot of information here. Granted, the articles span, I've read from anywhere between 2013 and 2015. So this data can change over time. They could have changed the providers and whatnot. But it is very interesting as to where they're pulling their data compared to where we're usually trying to rank right now.
Yeah, that's interesting. I would think that most people would want to see Google Maps when they do those searches. I know that I would.
Yeah.
That's a good example of the kinds of data, the kinds of searches that people are doing when they're on their mobile devices. They're not necessarily looking for, what do I do after I've been in a car accident? They're looking for more granular, smaller bits of information. And when they seek you out and when they find a mobile friendly site and they get to you, they're looking for stuff where they're going to be able to find those answers pretty easily. So when people are thinking about what does mobile friendly content look like, it's not just about responsive design, it's also having those little packets of information in a ways that the people can really find what they're looking for easily. A good example I ran across was how an FAQ can be stuffed with that kind of information. But when you were looking into this a little bit, did you find any good insights or tips on how we could do the actual optimization for ranking better?
Yeah, you just brought up a really good one, which was the FAQ, because when people generally do voice searches, they're looking for the who, what, when, why, and how kind of searches, and that's exactly what an FAQ does. And Siri likes to bring up her own results rather than a search result when possible. So and that's mostly for close-ended questions. So, for example, if you ask Siri what's the stock price for Apple, she won't show you search results with everyone that's tracking the stock price. She'll just show you the stock price for Apple. You can do that with various companies and so on and so forth. So when she can show you an answer without having to show you a search result, she'll choose that way. And so by having these questions that people are asking in the format that they're asking answered, then she'll more likely choose you over a competitor. There's a lot of her choosing people not based on where they rank in a SERP, but as to how they phrase themselves and answer questions. Yeah,
I think that's a brilliant example, and that's the kind of thing when people are wondering. So, what I know mobile's important, but what can I do that doesn't require hiring a designer? That's a piece of it. That's something that a law firm or lawyer has control over, is that kind of content, and it's pretty easy to put that stuff together. You can also be thinking about just from the user point of view. When folks have been in a car accident, they're trying to figure out, do I need a lawyer? Do I want to talk with a lawyer? That sort of thing. That's where you can have those specific questions addressed right in the body of your content.
Right. And one of the more interesting things about actually ranking is that having a higher ranking in a SERP helps you when you ask Siri a question, but user satisfaction with Siri doesn't lead to higher rankings, at least not as of now that anyone has found. I couldn't find any kind of correlation studies that show that. So you can optimize your site, which gives you a higher visibility by Siri, but having a good satisfaction with Siri doesn't lead to higher rankings. And personal thoughts, I just think that's because they haven't perfected their own algorithms to stop black hats from abusing the system.
I don't know if you answered Peter's question already, but he said, any ideas how we can capture keywords from voice search? Is anyone providing this? Apple, Amazon, Google?
At the top of my head, I don't believe there's specific ways you can see what's done by a voice search, what's done by a Google search. But when you look at what people are searching, if you look at a search console and you find some of the ways that they are finding your site, I'm not sure if that shows Siri information, but if it did, you can definitely tell by the way that things are phrased. People online will say best car accident attorney, New York, where people with Siri, they would say, hey Siri, what is the best car accident attorney in New York?
Yep.
The way that they phrase it is different. It's much more long tail compared to the short the more short tail searches that you do. If you were just on Chrome, you just open up a new tab and you type a search. It's more of natural speech. So one of the things that was suggested upon my research is that when you're creating content and when you're phrasing like your FAQ, don't write it from a content perspective, but actually write it from a talking perspective. So if you were to ask me what is the best attorney in New York, I would tell you why I'm the best attorney, why you should choose me, but in such a conversational voice and not like I'm writing content, because there is a big difference in how people talk compared to how they read, or at least how content is written to be read.
Let me repeat that back and see if I followed it correctly. So I understand like the context of the kinds of questions that people are asking, like who is the best lawyer in New York? Are you saying that kind of voice search friendly content is just going to be a little bit more human and conversational? Is that actually somebody trying to answer that question?
Right. Maybe it wasn't the best example to give with that type of search, but in general, because when Siri wants to find, when she searches for those keywords that you spoke and she's going through her algorithm and whatnot, she's looking for those keywords which are more conversational, which isn't necessarily how people write content. So one of the things that we do is we optimize content to make sure it has a certain keyword density, but we don't normally those keywords aren't generally long tail keywords based on a perspective of I'm talking to you, and if I asked you a question, how would you respond in that way? Mm-hmm. And I think that I don't think it's such a major thing. I think that Google is smart enough, whether it's pulled from Bing or Google. I think that the algorithms are smart enough to understand that this is how it's phrased conversationally, but in a more professional content way, it might be like this. So someone who does have it more conversationally may have an advantage, but I don't think that it just gets left out if you don't have that conversational tone, because sometimes that just doesn't work for some companies, some blogs, that they really just don't want that conversational tone. That's not how they want to present themselves. And you shouldn't get penalized for the way that you want to present yourself.
Not sounding friendly. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But Siri does look for that more conversational tone.
Yeah. It's interesting. I haven't really heard that before. This is a good example of how interesting SEO could be. Like we just pick like one little topic and one little side of it, and probably spend the next hour talking about it. Another point that I know that you were looking into had to do with how some of Google's tools are a little bit mischievous, and not necessarily giving us the kinds of information reliable information that we think.
Yeah. So the start of this was partly research on my own for Blackfin's clients and some of my own clients, where I've seen some discrepancies with data, as well as the first thing that really got me thinking about it was when we were doing site speed, and I was analyzing some site speed, and Lenny decided to create a video as to why the Google site speed checker is bad. It really, he showed like, it says that there's a problem. I fixed it, and it still says that this is a problem. So he gave us different ways to view that, and that's great. That's much more accurate. That's what we've been using, and I've personally been much more satisfied with the results I've been seeing from there compared to the Google. But there's other data, such as like the index pages, which I knew sometimes right. There are sometimes bugs with the crawler. Sometimes it just will show you wrong data. So I've gone on Stack Exchange, the specific webmasters subdomain of there, and I've asked a lot of Search Console questions like, why is this wrong? Why is this wrong? And basically the answers are just Google doesn't want to show you the right data. They don't always want to show you everything. Which, if you've watched some of the like SEO talks that Google has, the conversations that they have are very cryptic almost. Yeah. And with the SEOs will generally like create their own videos like, this is what like Matt Cutts said, this is what he actually meant. And they can be like two very contrasting things, but these are people that have had enough conversations with them to know, because Google is very close tight as to who talks about their algorithms, who talks about their data and how they collect data, how they do things, and they don't want people to really fully understand or fully grasp. But from what I heard, there are other tools, but in my opinion, it's hard to know what's actually showing you the right data when there's so many different tools out there that can show you different data.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Yeah, it's kind of like looking at somebody's backlink profile or all sorts of stuff. Do you have any kind of gut feeling for how active, one tool that SEOs rely on a lot is that AdWords keyword estimator or whatever it is? Is that something that you think is pretty reliable, or is it kind of similar? Who knows?
I haven't heard anything bad about the AdWords keyword planner. I'm sure when I mean that I haven't personally seen it, but I'm sure you can definitely find articles out there that say it's bad, that say it's great. That's one of the great things and unfortunate things about SEO is that there's so many different opinions, but sometimes you don't know which opinion is the good opinion. But I personally use it. I think it's a good indicator. I don't think it should be the only place that you search for keywords. Personally, if I'm trying to find different variations of keywords or different keywords to build on, I just type the keyword into the Google search, and if you scroll to the bottom of the page, it'll suggest a bunch more keywords. Yep. And so I like that suggestion tool better than the AdWords suggestion tool. But in terms of average monthly searchers, I feel as though they have more of a obligation to show you the correct data because people are paying for PPC. That's where they're getting their revenue from. Google doesn't make revenue from us optimizing a site. Google makes revenue when people purchase PPC campaigns.
Yeah, I think you probably just nailed it right there in terms of the monthly searches.
Are there any other keyword tools that are available for like a attorney or law firm to use other than the Google or the suggestion tool that you said at the bottom of the results page? Is there any other sort of popular tools? Or
there are some popular tools. I just haven't used them enough to really put my name behind them and say like you should use this. But generally, I feel as though the best keyword research in terms of gathering keywords before you're looking at any data about how hard it would be to rank for those, who else is ranking for them and whatnot, is to have someone that you know and that you trust, but that isn't in your field. So, for example, if you're a car accident attorney, you might not even want an attorney at all to view this page, but you just, maybe a family, friend, or a relative, and you just sit them in front of the computer. If you were trying to find this page, what would you put into Google? Because that's probably what other people are putting into Google. Because an attorney, if they're looking for a car accident lawyer, maybe that's not what they specialize in. Maybe they need a specialist in that field. They're probably going to use a different tone of voice, or they already know who they want to contact because they have industry knowledge where people don't have industry knowledge.
Cool. That's very interesting. Okay, Ant asked a question. What are your thoughts on Google's AMP pages? Are they worth investing in, or are they just temporary?
I think so. AMP pages are accelerated mobile pages, and basically it makes reading content on mobile devices a bit nicer. I very few sites right now use them. I think last time I checked, it was like maybe 3%, if that. And I personally haven't done any searches on my phone where I've seen a page that uses AMP pages, but I know that Blackfin has bought a plugin and that we were messing around with it. But I do think that they're very important. It helps with site speed, it helps with readability, and Google put it out there to make mobile searches more user-friendly, to provide a better user experience, and Google's all about making a better user experience. So I do think this makes a better user experience. So it's definitely something that you want to have. In terms of how will it help you rank, I'm not sure. I don't think it's very prevalent as of now. I think it can, if you have a great site and your competitor has a great site and you have these AMP pages and they don't, I think that could give you a little boost over them. But in terms of just having all of your mobile pages set up with AMP pages, I don't think that's like such a major ranking factor that you're really losing out right now, at least if you don't have it, because it is a new technology, I guess you could say, and not everyone is an SEO. Not every website has an SEO. So Google has to be fair for those people that have websites for fun that people just find entertaining to go to, that they don't spend money on SEO. Because it's not such an obligation at this point. Not everyone knows about it.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, AMP is certainly not like a mandatory piece of your arsenal. But if you're not paying attention to your site speed, then you are missing out, and you're going to be not necessarily killing it with SEO,
Right.
and particularly like with mobile. I think people are just considerably less patient when they're on their mobile device. I know I am, and if I hit a site that starts taking any kind of delay, I'm backing out.
Right. One of the interesting, not to cut you off there, but just because that's something that I found really interesting, is that you said that people might be a little bit more impatient when they're on their mobile phone. People expect a web page to slow within 2 seconds on their desktop. About at the 3-second point, people generally start falling off and they start closing tabs, going to somewhere else. But what's interesting on mobile devices, they'll wait up to 5 seconds. So people are a little bit more patient. Now, that might be just because there are so many Android users, and I have an Android phone, and it is really bad at loading anything. Even Google sometimes can take quite a few seconds to load. I'm personally not a huge mobile searcher fan. I'll go out of my way to grab my laptop. I just find it a lot easier. But yes, people will wait those extra 2 more seconds because they've understood that there are more. It does take longer to load pages on a mobile device for various reasons. So people do wait an extra 2 seconds, but having that competitive advantage of having a site load fast on mobile is huge. It helps with the Siri SEO, as we talked about before. That's something that Siri looks at. And then just general desktop rankings are influenced by how well you do on your mobile performance. So by having, if a site loads within like 2 seconds on your mobile device, you're going to be happy. You're going to be satisfied with that load speed.
Cool. So let's see some of my questions that I had here. Mine are a little bit more basic than the stuff that you're talking about. I was wondering if there's any issues that have been happening that you've seen with attorney websites, like any SEO issues from, like if we're working on a website, things that you're noticing that people should watch out for or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I can speak to that a little bit. So one thing that it could be, especially if you're like the business owner or the attorney and you don't really know SEO, you're not really sure where to start. It's easy to feel overwhelmed, or there's just so many missing pieces, and it's easy to dream up all sorts of strategies. Like maybe this will give me a great link, or maybe this will be a really hot spot on my site. And what you can end up missing out on and never getting around to catching is these little things that are what can kill you if you don't catch them. And what I'm thinking of at the moment is just like some on-page SEO issues. Like if you don't have your title tags right, if your site's screwed up, you're not linking, your internal linking isn't, if Google can't find what makes you so great when it's indexing your site, then that's something that you need to catch. And the reason I'm kind of thinking of that is when we're going through and looking at some new clients, what we could do for them, there's all sorts of our secret sauce that we can put to work. But really, a lot of the stuff that can really matter and move the needle for our clients are the simple pieces that you just need to be very diligent about catching and executing. I'll let Jared speak to any other points, but one other piece that we've been finding that's offsite, but I'll come back to that. It's offsite, but it's also just offline now. It is an important part of local SEO, of ranking in your area for your main keywords or however many offices you have, and that has to do with this kind of relationship building that's impossible to fake. So if you went back maybe 5 years or so, like local SEO was largely, or a lot of it was getting yourself into all these different directories and making sure that your name, address, and phone number were right and pointing to your site. There's still a lot of directories out there that are very important that you want to be in. But the days of relying on, let's say you're in Tampa and you want to track down every Tampa and Florida directory you can find to get those links, that's really not what does it anymore. Partly because it's something that's so easy for gray hat, black hat SEOs to fake. Instead, what works is something that only real businesses can do, and that has to do with establishing real roots in your community that end up being reflected back online. This is an area where Blackfin kind of gets excited. One of the things that we found that can be very successful is just starting to offer a local sponsorship. So that can be either for something that's just near and dear to your heart, like, I don't know, single mothers or something like that, going back to school, or it could be generic. But either way, it opens the door for you to start doing, or you or someone to start doing outreach to all these schools or to news organizations. You can start linking. In some cases, we've gotten well over 100 .edu links pointing back to a client site or something like that. In a similar note, another way of kind of getting these kinds of local links can be finding organizations that it makes sense for you to partner with in your city or in your state. It depends on where you live. And that can be places that have other events or some kind of cause that you and your team can get behind, wants to get behind anyway. If you reach out to them and say, hey, we want to get more involved in our community, what would that look like? Quite often they'll have some kind of opportunity, or they'll be very interested when you offer an opportunity to them to let you give them a reasonable sponsorship, and they'll link back to your site. And if you can start picking up some of those for your business in your city, those are awesome. You still need this healthy backlink profile across the board of the other kinds of stuff that we do, guest posts and directory links and press releases. But in our mind, some of these local type things are on the one hand they're very powerful, and B, they're just fun to go after. You're not burning the midnight oil trying to track down some weird opportunity. You're actually connecting with real people, and they're gonna get back to you. They're thankful, and it's a relationship. And this kind of stuff, incidentally, it's very memorable. Sharing these kinds of relationships and these kinds of programs with your audience on social media or through newsletters, etc. That's the kind of thing that when somebody does need some legal help, they'll remember this nice thing about your business, not just the billboards.
Okay. Someone just asked, kind of based off what you're saying now, sorry, Sandra, how important are inbound links for SEO compared to on-page reviews content?
Sure. You want to try?
Yeah, sure. I'll jump in here as long as you don't mind. So inbound links are important, but they can also hurt you. The thing you want to look for is relevance and authority. So you shouldn't. Some SEOs, sometimes there are links that aren't the best links in the world. You're not gonna. Not every link is going to be like a Huffington Post link or a Forbes link or something like that. Sometimes you are getting links from these local directories and whatnot. And directories are still relevant, especially there are some very powerful directories for each niche. And each niche has its own special directories. But in terms of other websites, not directory-based, not citation-based, let's say blogs or sites like Forbes and stuff like that, what you're looking for is relevance and authority. So you want to make sure that you're getting links from maybe other like law firms, if you're a law firm, people that talk about law-related things, people that are in the maybe the law industry, maybe they are a professional witness, something like that. But you also want to make another thing is authority. Because Google wants you to be an authority website. So if you're getting links from very powerful sites like Forbes or Huffington Post, well, those sites aren't specifically within the law genre. Those are still very authoritative sites. But in terms of bad links, let's say I could go on a website, I could buy 10,000 links for $5. Having those 10,000 links isn't going to be the same as having 100 quality links. Because building links is important, but it's more important as to what those links are and how you're building them. Compared to on-page reviews and content, reviews are more powerful off-page. So if you have Google reviews, Yelp reviews, those are very prevalent, especially Siri SEO. As we've talked about a couple times, Siri really likes pulling things from Yelp. So if you have a Yelp page, that's going to help a lot with voice search. Content, think of on-page, think of SEO itself as like a house. The on-page SEO is the foundation. If you have a bad foundation, it doesn't matter what kind of link building you are, because Google's going to think, well, you're a crap site, so it's not worth you having that authority. So you need to make sure that you have a solid foundation. But offsite SEO is very important. That foundation is what tells Google what you're about, what you do, and that offsite SEO really helps with increasing your rankings and shows Google that you're a website that deserves to be at the top, that you're a website that people are talking about, that you're an authority within whatever area that your website is in. And that's really going to help you. So you both are very important. It's just they do different things for different reasons, and it's really all about the overall quality of both of them.
Yeah, I agree with everything that you just said. The way that I put it sometimes is I think that you touched upon why each of these pieces are important. We do kind of start with that foundation of on-page SEO, and really that accounts for about 20% of what's important with your online campaign. It is what we want to do first, because when we start putting together these directory citations and other types of links that are pointing to your site, we need it to all make sense. But really, the 80% that really gets you moving up the search results, and particularly in a competitive market, is going to be the link building. And again, it's quality over quantity.
Right. And one of the things I want to touch on really quick is when Todd was talking about earlier about things that attorney sites can do right or wrong. One of the worst things that you can do is hire a bad SEO company. You can look up like SEO story nightmares, and they're sad because you know that they happen to people and they cost them potentially a lot of money. But I'll just leave it as sad. I don't want to make a joke out of anyone's unfortunate misfortune. But when you hire a bad SEO company, yes, you might get rankings at first, but generally those are either not keywords that you want to rank for, or they're using tactics that will give you a small boost, and that Google's like, this wasn't normal. They're going to shoot you right back down, and they're going to be watching your site a lot more closely for anything unnatural. And so when you hire a bad SEO company, maybe they build you those 10,000 bad links for $5. Maybe they completely destroy your title tags, your meta descriptions, make them, maybe they were okay, just need to be tweaked a little bit, and now they're all over the place. They edit your content. They just stuff a bunch of keywords. When your new SEO company that is good comes on, they have a lot more work to do. It's going to cost you a lot more in the long run, because they have to clean up what the last SEO company did to make your site a mess. And so that is really one of the worst things you can do for your SEO, because your site can't just be changed whenever, however, for whatever. Google does keep a record, and if Google is watching your site more closely, it can deteriorate the overall authority of your website. So if you keep getting penalized, if Google keeps telling you like this is unnatural, there's something going on, you keep fixing it. This is why sometimes SEOs will suggest you need a new website, because your old domain, Google is watching so closely, and they don't think that you're an authoritative. They think any SEO work that goes into it is going to be bad. They don't think you're a quality site. You're just not going to rank. They have devalued your domain. And sometimes you can be devalued without, they won't always send you an email saying, hey, we're going to devalue your site. They'll just make you less important to Google. And then it's one of the things that does that very often is hiring a bad SEO company. And those are conversations that no one wants to hear. No one wants to hear the new SEO company say, your site needs to be completely redone. You need a new domain, or I need to spend an extra 10 hours just fixing what the previous SEO company did before I can really start on what I need to do.
Yeah.
How long does it usually?
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Oh, you go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, and we do have those difficult conversations with some clients. Folks who have been through some difficult relationships, maybe more than one or two, where they've either, in some cases, it's folks who have been seriously penalized, and somebody was out there doing who knows what kind of link building. In other cases, they just weren't doing them any favors. They hired an SEO team that was not communicating well, wasn't telling folks what they were doing. And at the end of the day, 6 months go by, a year goes by. Even if they're not effective at what they do, then that still can be doing you damage. The worst case scenario is where they actually take you down. But it's just one of those things where like, how do you know whether an SEO team is the right people? I think you really have to a point. If you don't know the background, the industry yourself, you do have to kind of go with your gut. And do these people seem like they have good values? Do they seem like what they're talking about is a long-term sustainable strategy? Those are the kinds of folks that you want on your team. So if people are promising overnight success or anything like that, like we'll have it at the top within months, I'd keep moving.
Right. I definitely, just before we jump into Mary's question, which I think Leslie's going to ask, is just make sure that when you are in the process of hiring an SEO company, that you're looking up questions to ask this company. When you're hiring any outside company to work with your business, on your business, make sure that you are looking for people that know the industry, so that you know that you're actually hiring people, that you're making a good hiring decision, because you don't want to mess anything up. You don't want to make the job harder for the quality people that you have to bring on after the low quality people finish. And with SEO, something that I've noticed, there's a very strong correlation with what they charge to their overall quality. When people, I know that different countries, monetarily things are valued differently. So you do have to take that to account. $100 in the US may only be worth $30 in a different country. But if people are saying like $50 a month, I can get your site to number one in a month, they're not worth going with. They're going to not do quality work. You may get those results, and that's why so many people hire these low quality websites, is because they get them results. They just aren't sustainable. They get the results. They're number one for a day. They're number one for a week, and then all of a sudden they're number 40, and they can't get up there anymore.
So you're right. I was going to ask Mary's question. So how long does it take to recover from something like that?
It really all depends on what was done. So, for example, if they paid $5, they maybe got 10,000 links. Maybe that's all they did was just get 10,000 bad links. You can go ahead, disavow those. If they kept doing this and you're at like 100,000 links, which would be a nightmare to really disavow and go through all those, get all those domains. But that would take a lot more time. So it really just depends on what they did. Generally, on-site changes are easier to fix than off-site. Sometimes you have to track people down and have things like removed from a website. You have to go through Google sometimes, depending on like penalties and whatnot. So it really all depends on what they did and how much of it did they do.
Yeah, so sometimes if you really get slammed with a serious penalty, it depends on how Google is doing their algorithm updates. They said they were going to change this, but in some cases, you can get slammed by an algorithm update due to having bad links or crazy content. And then you would, at least historically, you would need to wait for that next algorithm update to come around to actually lift that particular penalty. And we've seen some folks who are good, clients and they were out there in the world doing the right things, but they had lousy SEO and got slammed, and they had to wait for a long time, and it hurt their business. In other cases, it may be that what was being done wasn't necessarily unethical or getting you penalized; it was just dumb. So it takes us some time to. It may well be that by getting the right kind of team in place, because you're not trying to overcome a penalty or go through some sort of backlink nightmare, you're just executing sound SEO strategy for a change, then you could realistically, I think, start seeing some positive results, 5 to 8 months from now, or more. It depends a little bit on your budget.
So if you were going to hire an SEO company, would you recommend not looking necessarily at the SEO company's website, but at their companies that they're working for? Like, is there certain things that you could look for on their clients' websites that would tell you if they're good or bad?
Yeah, I'll let Jared speak to that, but he has some good input. But I would also encourage you to go to that person's website too, and not necessarily just to see how intelligently they can talk about SEO, but you're going to get an idea about who those people are from their brand. What do they choose to think about? What do they think a good website looks like to them? So like blackfen.com is us, and I think if you came and explored our website, you'd start getting an idea not of just of what we specialize in, but who we are as people. Some of those values start coming through, and those are the kinds of people that you want to partner and have on your side. But yeah, I think you could take a look at who's on their roster and see what they're already doing. I'll let you speak to that, Jared.
Right. Any good SEO company will let you talk to their clients. They'll tell you who they've worked on, and then you can go and you can contact some of those. Of course, I can't guarantee that the people that they're working with or have worked with will talk to you back, but you want input. How do they do? You want to know specifically communication, which is huge, especially if you do any work on your own site. Maybe you write your own blog posts. Maybe you edit some information. Maybe you add in your own testimonials when you get them and whatnot. Your SEO company should be aware. They should be good at communication. There should be strong communication. You want to know what they're reporting. What do they report on? If your SEO company is only reporting on the links that they built, not a good indication that they're a quality SEO company. If they're only reporting on ranking changes, that's very dangerous ground to be in, because you have no idea what they're doing to actually get those ranking changes. You should also, again, do your own research into what a good SEO company will offer, what their best practices are, and then you investigate their website before talking to them, see what they say. If they guarantee, like page one ranking, that you're going to be number one, and so it's only going to take us a very short amount of time, it's generally a bad indication that they are not going to be a very quality company. So really, just any investigation, maybe if you were, for example, if you were going to hire someone, maybe you do a short Google search on who they are. You should do the same thing with the company. You should make sure that their own site is ranking well, that they have active social media pages. You should see what kind of content they're promoting on there. You should look into anything and everything that you can, because these are people that do a lot on the web and do a lot of different things, and you do want to make sure that they're going to be doing on-site work, they're going to be doing off-site work. You want to know if they have any extra areas. Are you going to be working with one SEO, or are you going to have a team of SEOs that work on this site? What's the communication, what's the reporting, and stuff like that. You also want to make sure that you do have some kind of mind. You want to be like, will you be able to reach this goal? This is the goal I want to reach. What do you think about that? You want to make sure that they're actually answering your questions and not going around them. I've hired a couple of SEOs in the past to work on sites with me. And one thing I never disclose is that I'm an SEO. I always say that I own the website, because I do see things that they won't always tell me. Like, I understand they're like, oh, this is what a title tag is. This is why it's important. And they don't know that I already know that. And so they'll use different language than me than if I were to tell them I'm an SEO. So I'm looking for people, and I often see people that don't always tell the whole truth, or will kind of work around the questions to give me something that seems good. But as an SEO, I know that they're just trying to not say that we're going to do this, because they know that it's a bad thing to pursue.
Okay,
Yep.
Did you guys have anything else to add, or anything cool that we should talk about? Or
I think we could talk about this all day. Different aspects of why we like what we do. The only one piece that I think it was Gabby was asking about had to do with reviews and what the role of them that was in all this. And I think that Jared nailed it when he mentioned that it's really more for the conversions, or for here's why those are important particularly. So a lot of you probably already know this, but once you have 5+ reviews in Google, then you got to have the five stars next to you in the local results, and those really drive conversions. People, it establishes trust. It's another thing that generally you can't fake. And for that reason alone, like one of the things, if you're already ranking well, and are either in the local results or close to it, if you can get those 5 stars up there, then that's going to, I can guarantee you, I shouldn't make a promise, but I guarantee you that that's going to help people click through to your website and eventually pick up the phone. Reviews can help with local SEO. They are part of the. We do believe that they are part of the algorithm, but we don't think that they're the leading pieces. Having these directory citations, having the right kind of content on your website, having Google My Business set up properly, those are more what really helps. That and all these links that we were talking about with the local sponsorships and that kind of thing. But no, I just wanted to wrap that one up. I think that's it for me.
cool. Well, I just dropped the link in there of the webinar that's coming up next Wednesday with Todd, the 7 to increasing law firm conversion rate. So that will be cool if anyone wants to check that out.
Yeah.
Jared, did you have anything else to add?
No, I just invited.
Oh, go ahead.
Click through. That's something that we get excited about. What conversion rate optimization is, for folks who don't know, is that's taking your existing traffic and just improving the number of people who are converting, and whether that's picking up the phone or doing live chat, etc. And that's something that everybody wants to have a high-ranking site or get plenty of website visitors. But at the end of the day, it's about what happens when people have either a positive or negative user experience on your site. So we get into the weeds a little bit on that next week.
Cool. Sounds good. Well, thanks, guys. It was a good conversation.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, thanks.
No one else has any questions? No? Okay, well, thank you, guys.
Yep.
Sure, not a problem.